last part of this bill seems to give you extraordinary powers to do a lot of different things without the legislature. The government's sort of at the whim of you.
So we got big news here today. Welcome back to Moose on Loose. My name's David. Today we have our unelected Prime Minister in Mark Carney. There are some wins here today, though. We'll rip through all the cabinet ministers who got fired, because there are a bunch of them, and then there's some new hires, mostly just regurgitated Trudeau garbage. But we also got breaking news that David Eby wants to put in a new bill to give himself emergency powers for the next 2 years to do whatever he wants, unrestricted, unchecked, unregulated. Let's jump into this. So first up, we got Shreya Tees here, new polling data. This is Abacus poll from March 12th. It says not released officially. This is 38% conservatives, 34% liberals, tightening up here, unfortunately. We also have this one here. So this green line shows a impression of Carney. So people's impression of him is not going up anymore. It's flatlined. But if you look at the negative here, the negative impression of Mark Carney is going up. And this, we knew this would happen because as his skeletons come out of the closet, people are like, oh, that guy's a corrupt banker versus the banker that's going to save Canada. So the longer this goes on, the higher this red line is going to go. So here it is, the right, not honorable Mark Carney, Prime Minister, unelected Prime Minister. Creepy Count Chocula, Mr. Burns.
It is my honor to respond to the Governor General's request that I form a government.
The Governor General is so worthless. Mary Simon does almost nothing and makes $350,000 doing nothing. She stands there for photo ops. Useless position, useless person. She could have got us out of this. She betrayed Canada.
It's a solemn duty to serve as Prime Minister at this time of great consequence for our country. The ceremony we just witnessed reflects the wonder of a country built on the bedrock of three peoples, Indigenous, French, and British. The opening and closing prayers evoke and remind us of the deep roots from which we grow and underscore the values to which we aspire.
There it is, The Values, the same title as his book, his net zero agenda, where companies must be net zero, people must be net zero, 15-minute cities, everyone will ride bikes, and he'll fly around in his gas-guzzling jet. We got this posted by conservative Bob Zimmer. It says, it also doesn't feel all that different because it isn't. Carney's cabinet is just like Justin's. 100% of Carney's cabinet were in Trudeau's caucus. Every single one of them.
Also doesn't feel all that different. We saw so many familiar faces on the walk-in, so many ministers keeping their job in cabinet. Now, whether they keep the portfolio or not, that part remains to be seen. But in large part,
so we do know now there are some people that got fired, which is excellent. First off, here's a list of his cabinet. It's a much smaller cabinet. We got Mark Carney as Prime Minister. He also doubles as the Minister of Lies. Dominic LeBlanc is moving over to international trade. This is all nonsense because election is coming soon. But Melanie Joly, Francois Philippe Champagne, he moved over to Minister of Finance. Anita Nan took over Francois' portfolio. Stephen Guilbeault, he's moved over to the Minister of Canadian Culture and Identity, Parks Canada, and Quebec Lieutenant. So is this a demotion for Stephen Guilbeault? Probably. Chrystia Freeland is Minister of Transport and Internal Trade. Mark Holland stepped down. He doesn't have anything to do with this. Perhaps he knows the polling data is not that strong. Arif Virani is out. Gary Anasandri is taking over for him, a Minister of Justice. Rachel Valdez is now the government whip. Stephen McKinnon is Minister of Jobs and Families, which means Jenna Sudds got fired. Terry Duguid took over Minister of Environment and Climate Change. Nate Erskine-Smith stays housing. Rachel Bendignan takes over Minister of Immigration. So Mark Miller, we knew this one, got fired. Cody Blois, this guy's been sniffing around and licking some boots. He got Minister of Agriculture. And Ali Hassasi, Minister of Government Transformation. So more importantly, we've got the list of people who either stepped down or got fired. Karina Gould got fired. That's right, folks. Woo! We can applaud that one. Perhaps she could take this situation for further study. That one feels good. Same with Mark Miller fired. Mark Holland stepped down. So Harjit Sajjan also stepping down. Mary Ang stepping down. Perhaps that's because she's been wrapped up in all that foreign interference. Might want to just slip under the rug and not have anyone dig into that stuff, huh, Mary? Ahmed Hussein, he got fired. That one feels good too. Yves Duclos, Dracula, he got fired. Diane LeBouffier, the angry turnip, she got fired. Angry Turnip, Genocides, they're all fired. Arif Virani fired. Darren Fisher, Ruby Soda, they're all gone. They're all gone. And here we got Stephen Guilbeault being sworn in as the Quebec Lieutenant.
I, Stephen Guilbeault, do solemnly and sincerely promise and declare that I will truly and faithfully, and to the best of my skill and knowledge, execute the powers and trusts reposed in me as Minister of Canadian Culture and Identity, Parks Canada, and Quebec Lieutenant.
At first glance, you might think it's very bizarre that Mark Carney would keep around such a radical, divisive guy. But you think about it, Mark Carney is the climate king. I still can't figure out if Mark Carney actually cares about climate or if he just likes it because he uses it as a way to milk massive stacks of cash from people. He wants someone that embraces that, I guess, around him. He keeping around the radical as Stephen Guilbeault. Check out this clip here of David Cochrane. He says, Pierre Poilievre hunts down and destroys everyone who gets in his path.
As Pierre Poilievre has been the apex predator of Parliament Hill, he hunts down and destroys everybody who gets in his path. He will not have that opportunity with Mark Carney because Parliament is not coming on the campaign trail, and we'll see how that goes.
It's quite the statement for a supposed unbiased news publication. The CBC is corrupt and needs to be defunded immediately. And should note too, I've been thinking about this. The CBC gets $1.4 billion a year. That's over $100 million per month. Just think about that. How do the Conservatives compete with the Liberals when the Liberals essentially are getting a spending budget of $100 million in marketing per month? It's not fair. This is highly corrupt. Now, what David Cochrane is saying is correct. Pierre Poilievre will hunt him down even outside of Parliament. He's going to destroy him in the debates. There's a lot of material to work on with Mark Carney. He's got so many skeletons. But on the side of truth, we have Rebel News here. Check out this. They're running this truck here with Mark Carney and Joffrey Eggstein. Look at this. I'm not going to read this out. Look at this on the side of a truck driving around.
And today our message is, why was Mark Carney hanging out with Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein? Of course, you all saw the photo circulating around of the 2013 music festival where Mark Carney had been seen hanging out with Ghislaine Maxwell, the convicted. And do you know where I'm standing? I'm actually just in front of the Rideau Hall where Mark Carney is going to be sworn in a minute. So you can see behind.
They're sitting out front of Rideau Hall with this truck. This is unbelievable. TheCarneyFiles.com, huh? With that, check out this video Canada Proud posted. Breaking this situation down. There's more details and it's not looking good, Carney.
This is Mark Carney. This is his wife, Diana Carney. And this is Ghislaine Maxwell, the recruiter for notorious Epstein's global ring. Carney says he knew nothing of their crimes when he spoke to her at this party. But is that true? This photo is from 2013, 5 years after Epstein was first convicted of. It was taken at the estate of Tanya Waltherwick, a British aristocrat who happens to be the one and only sister of Diana Carney. Tanya is known to be a close personal friend of Maxwell since high school. When Maxwell's father was arrested for his own crimes many decades ago, the Daily Mail reported that it was Tanya who she went to go cry to. And Jeff himself had 7 different numbers under Diana Carney's sister's name in his infamous little black book, 2 of which are for someone named Diana. Was Mark Carney really unaware of who Maxwell was? Or did he just not care? Who is Mark Carney?
Wow. We definitely need those Joffrey Eggstein files released with all the full information. I believe they're still going to redact contact information, but the full names, release all that stuff. We've got attacks coming from all fronts here. I mean, listen to David Eby here in BC Parliament. This guy is just an absolute joke. He goes on to blame all the problems in British Columbia, which are his fault because John Horgan handed him a like $6 billion surplus. And now he's turned that into a $9 billion deficit. He blames all of it on Donald Trump.
About economic challenges in the Kootenays. Our whole province, in fact, our whole country is facing a major economic challenge right now, coming from the President of the United States, which is why I would love to see.
Calm down.
No, we will not calm down. David Eby is an absolute loser who doesn't serve the people. He gave himself a pay raise, disappeared for a while, and then told Canadians he's going to rescind his $1,000 handout that he used to win the election. These people are all disgusting losers.
You should stop talking. Premier, conclude.
Canadians will not stop talking. I've noticed multiple other creators are getting emails from media companies from all sorts of groups threatening this, threatening to end people. I got somebody emailing me saying they're going to expose me if I don't pay them Bitcoin. Expose me. I've put everything on the internet. I got nothing to hide. Bring it on. It's hilarious when someone sends that to me and you got nothing on me. Good luck. And with that, the BC NDP and Greens finalize a 4-year agreement to work together. Jack up that carbon tax. We're really affecting the planet, aren't we? Cause some suffering because it's going to do so much. What you're about to see here is absolutely insane. David Eby is granting himself emergency powers to do whatever he pleases for the next 2 years in British Columbia.
Premier, the last part of this bill seems to give you extraordinary powers to do a lot of different things without the legislature. And I'm wondering why you can't just do them through the legislature, keep it running, get it done. You've got a majority government. And when you say we're not going to be at the whim of one man at the White House, have we not set up a system here where the government's sort of at the whim of you and that he's going to be signing executive orders in the Oval Office and then we flip to you signing executive orders in the Premier's office and two democratic systems are bypassed for leaders' orders?
Yeah, not at all, Rob. The bill actually requires these orders and council, these regulations to come to the legislature, to be ratified by the legislature. It also, as a whole, sunsets within a 2-year period. The scenario I want to invite people to consider is one in which the United States rips up the Columbia River Treaty and shuts off access to the common entitlement of electricity between Washington State and Canada. We will have to take some pretty dramatic actions in a very short period of time. It's crucial that whatever the emergency is that the president incurs upon Canada in an effort to damage us, that we're able to respond quickly to minimize the damage. We see this as emergency legislation. This is not everyday legislation. This is not routine legislation. This is in an emergency situation where we need legislative authority. We need government authority to do something quickly to minimize damage to the economy, to people, and an unpredictable action from an unpredictable president.
This guy's a corrupt loser and he's out of control. This is absolutely out of control. Giving himself emergency powers just to willy-nilly. As John Rustad says here, if you thought the government overreach during the world event was bad, wait until you hear about BC's radical NDP is trying with Bill 7. So this is called Bill 7. Sweeping almost unlimited powers with zero oversight. Imagine a captain of a BC ferry ended as many people as Eby did with his poor decision-making. That captain would be in jail forever. They should hold politicians responsible for lives lost with experimental decriminalization and exploding addiction populations. This is a great comment. Right on point. This guy is probably the most corrupt and sinister politician in Canada. I think Trudeau's got him beat, but he's probably number 2. This guy is seriously bad news. This government needs to be brought down. What an arrogant POS. Not a lot of support in the comments here, Eby. We all smell what you're cooking here. So Elon Musk posting this crazy because this is directly targeting Elon Musk. So to give some context here, David Eby is removing Tesla from its EV rebate program because of Elon Musk in violation of Canadian Human Rights Act. Perhaps Elon should ban Canada from SpaceX and Starlink in retaliation. No kidding.
Premier, the measures regarding the Tesla chargers, are those only for Tesla, or will they apply to other American manufacturers? And can you explain the reasoning of why you're taking that measure?
Yeah, it's just for Tesla, and it's because of Elon Musk.
This man is a menace. He has to be thrown out of office. He's an absolute disaster of a politician. What is wrong with Canada? This is so draconian. Canada is officially punishing Tesla buyers because of Elon Musk. Pure clown world. If Musk pulled Starlink and SpaceX access, Trudeau's government would be scrambling in no time. This is the guy who's put a carbon tax on us, and he's punishing an EV company. Like, you just can't make this stuff up. Next up, we got New Brunswick Premier Susan Holt here, talking about cutting off the power again.
Just wondering, what has been the reaction from Maine Governor Janet Mills when you say it's still on the table, the threat of cutting power? What has been her reaction to that? Is that a threat that you feel that is being taken seriously in Maine?
I think there's a lot of concern from the folks of Maine who, in some cases, don't have any other options. So there are people in northern Maine, and these are some of the most vulnerable people in Maine with some of the lowest incomes that are not connected to the U.S. grid. And one of our fears is, should we cut them off, they may make moves to find ways to connect them into the grid, and we would lose a significant customer and opportunity for revenue over the long term if the U.S. decides that it wants to address their energy security differently. Energy security is something that we think about a lot, but Maine is very concerned that New Brunswick may take this action, but we're not sure that those actions make their way to the White House and prompt a change in behavior there.
Yeah, no kidding. You're threatening to cut off their power. Of course they would connect them to the grid, and they don't want to be left out in the cold again. You guys are ridiculous. These premiers, David Eby, just the worst. Next up, we got a report here of how badly Canadians are getting robbed by our government.
Do you feel pinched by taxes? That's no surprise, since the average Canadian family spends 43% of their income on them. That's more than any other expense, including the necessities like food and shelter.
Taxes are the largest household expense for families in Canada. The average family earns more than $109,000 and spends almost half of that on taxes.
Not only income taxes, it's also payroll taxes, sales taxes, fuel taxes when you're filling up at the pump, property taxes that you pay as well.
That's more than people spend on housing, food, and clothing combined.
50% of Canadians are $200 away from not being able to pay their bills. And, this is a big...
50% of Canadians are $200 away. That is so bad.
Reason why.
The Canadian Taxpayers Federation says governments at all levels need to look at cutting taxes.
Canadians are absolutely pushed to the brink. This is so sad. Cut the taxes. Cut them now. Canada drops from 6th to 33rd on the Quality of Life Index. Under Stephen Harper, Canada's middle class was considered the richest in the world, richer than the United States. After 8 years of Trudeau Liberal leadership, half of Canada's provinces are poorer than West Virginia. Well, there we have it. Our new Prime Minister. Yeah, okay. A lot of corruption in Canada. It's all stacking up. With Captain Schmuck going out the door, finding out about him meeting with alleged Chinese money launderers, we've got Mark Carney and all his skeletons. We've got David Eby wanting to invoke emergency powers for himself. Canada is falling. We need an election badly. We need to clean all this crap and filth out of our country once and for all.